Alright, hello and welcome everyone to the NUEL Varsity Playoffs. I'm Kachka, joined by Takwa in the color casting this time, and well, we'll be following LSE against the loser of Bristol Mandem and Lowhampton.
Yeah, very excited to be here today, of course. Somebody is getting eliminated, and we'll find out who. All three of the potential candidates for elimination are all members that did pretty well in the regular season, and people that you would have expected to do quite well in the playoffs run.
Absolutely, but with the first round being a best of one, well, surprises do happen, and DMU T1 took the upset win over LSE, which means that they are now in the elimination. The stress is all on them.
You have to remember that DMU also did go through the last chance qualifiers. They were so close to actually just being eliminated from the tournament straight up. Made it through that, come back here, they get the dub, and now they're continuing onwards. So watch out for them in the games to come.
For sure, and I mean, I guess we could maybe talk a bit more about how that happened, because I believe we had the screenshot of the post game. We also saw some information, and it really felt like the cheese factor played a significant role in that loss for LSE.
Yeah, so something went down at level 1, leading to Tristana getting a first blood on the side of DMU, and when you get a Tristana with Halo Blade some extra gold at level 1, it generally doesn't lead to something very good, and then sometimes games can just snowball from then on out. It was quite a quick one, so we do expect them to not be too deterred from it going into this best of 3.
Absolutely, and they are going to be facing the losers of Bristol Mandem versus Lowhampton, which, to the best of my knowledge, sorry, is still going on. Um, And as you mentioned, all three of these teams have performed pretty damn well. I mean, Mandem and LSE, if that ends up being the matchup, both
Yep.
of these two teams would be some of the candidates I'd have for the finalists. And if they face each other in the round one of losers, boy, oh boy, is that a bracket.
I mean, that's it. You come into Varsity, you look at the standings, you look, oh, well, they came second. You have, oh, well, Mandem did pretty well, it was around third, and then, oh, well, now we're suddenly in a situation where they could both be eliminated before they even make it out of what is technically round 1 of losers bracket.
Yeah, which is going to be
Yeah.
a shocker.
Pretty
Yeah.
impressive, to say the least, I have to say. I mean, the problem is sometimes when you comes to best of ones, these things can happen, but it is within the best of 3 where you can really determine, knuckle down and say, well, this is our last chance, we're going to fight for it, and that's what we hope to see.
Yeah. And I guess since, we are waiting to see who their opponents are going to be, how do LSC like to win their games? What are we really expecting them to be drafting towards here in this upcoming match?
Well, as far as LSE goes, I would expect that you're probably looking to deal with the jungle and the bot side. You have an incredibly strong jungler and Born This Way, being a Division 2 player in the NLC, but I think I've just heard about the outcome of the Lowhampton Mandem matchup.
Uh-huh. Well, we are going to see Bristol Mandem against LSC in round one losers. I am losing my mind. Why are the second and the third seed from Varsity playing each other in round one losers?
The world will never know. But here we are today in a elimination match between the second and third seed. So that's what we got up for today. A best of 3 between 2 of the best teams in the varsity. And, well, sounds like a banger, and I hope it will be one.
I mean, it has to be, because these teams are fighting for their chances in the playoffs, for their chances ultimately, for the last chance qualifier into UEM, even if you manage to win. And for neither of these teams, that is something outside of their expectations, but only one of them gets to make it through. And I really expect some close matches.
That is the hope. Now, I don't believe these two teams have really... they have met before once in varsity,
Mhm.
not so much within the season before that. However,
Yeah.
during varsity, LSE took the dub that time. So... But it is best of 1.
It was a big dub as well. I feel
Yeah.
like we have to say, Born This Way absolutely popping off on the Graves in that game. Now, the meta has probably changed a bit, since I don't think Graves is necessarily what I would be expecting to see this time round in the jungle. But the point stands that Born This Way has already outperformed Doom CBA in the jungle, and so that is something to watch out going into this series.
Yeah, this is going to be something you really do want to look at is exactly where each is going to prioritize, because you already know what LSE's playstyle is. It's incredibly obvious that they're going to use the Division 2 jungler, play through them, play around them, and oftentimes it comes in through bot, especially if LSE Dog gets their hands on a Jinx. Whereas for Bristol, I mean, it's a little bit more flexible, but you're really looking at something like Bonks in the mid lane.
Yeah, I feel like Bongs definitely is the player that has stood out to me for the side of Bristol Mandem. And, the Sad also likes to play carry jungler, so there is going to be... Wait, Sad born this way. Oh, am I confusing IGS? Anyways, let's focus on Bonks right now, because I figured out there have been two junglers playing for Bristol Mandem over the course of the split. Um, and I run myself into a corner. But yes, I agree. Bonks is one of those mid laners, especially Zoe is a pick that we have to watch out for. I believe it was taken away from them by Hampton in that one match, so there are definitely strategies to deal with it beyond just banning it.
Yeah. It's not just that though, but when it tends to be when Bristol do well is that you have bonks enabled, the Nuxus is allowed to kind of be existing in the game and playing well, and then the rest of the team kind of just forms around that. But you have these key components that you really need to enable, and if that's stopped by LSE, if we end up seeing Born This Way inhibiting that, then it might end up being a bit more of a problem for Bristol, but likewise. On the other hand, you have LSE, who has effectively an autofill mid laner.
I mean, that is true, and I believe you have said that, as we were watching, you had maybe some reservations about what exactly has happened in there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know about necessarily giving Remy champions that are something like Volution that was played versus DMU, where there's a little bit more room for error, especially in the matchup versus the Victor here. Yes, you can be very aggressive in the lane, but if you don't get enough of an advantage, and given that you're not quite as comfortable in mid as maybe your opponents might be, I'm not sure if that's the way to go.
Yeah, possibly not. And, well, I mean, I'm thinking what else we could talk about. Top lane recently has been kind of a bit of a stale lane, with weak side being picked almost exclusively. So that is most likely not going to be too much of a factor, though that can be said that Nara is a champion that has popped up, so
Yep.
if one team decides to opt into that, there's definitely avenues of play around that.
Yeah, Nara's been popping up a lot recently. I think more specifically back when Ranged Hullbreaker wasn't quite as nerfed. It's still a relatively decent item on the Nara if you do intend to start splitting some other lanes, but generally with the Nara you're looking more to team fight, so it depends on how you want to play the map, although on at least in this game, I'm not exactly expecting both sides to really prioritize carry tops, although we might see that adaptation later on in the best of three as the teams get to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like that's also something to notice, because it is the first time these teams are playing a best of series in this
Yeah.
split of Varsity, I believe. So adaptation starts becoming a thing. You lose the first game, right? It's not over yet. Of course, you're going to feel the pressure, but you have got that room to come back and adapt and look to, put yourself back in the series.
And that's exactly the thing. When it comes to best of threes, it's a lot of the game is about tenacity. It's about how well you can keep your mental going. It's about how well you can counter drafts as you get to know how the opponent wants to play the game. And that generally becomes the deciding factor within best of threes, whereas in best of ones, sometimes you can just win the game off of a cheese strat that isn't necessarily expected.
Yeah, and well, cheese strats. I still think we could maybe see something, right? It is a best of three at the end of the day. If you do manage to find that advantage by winning the first game, suddenly your opponent is like, right, only one game away from elimination. Uh, it could all go wrong. So it is something that might be a legitimate strategy.
Yeah, we just got the standings on show for everyone just to see exactly what happened right at the end of Varsity there. I mean, you had Grey Warwick and LSE right at the top, and then the Mandem to follow. Of course, Lowerhampton did take the win over there, but they were they were your finalists and your runners-up from Winter, so not exactly opposition that you would necessarily want to go into. But with the first section, we do know that DMU moves forward, and they will be playing Lowerhampton in that second round of the upper bracket.
Indeed, they will be. And I don't know if we have the results from the upper bracket. I know they're not immediately relevant to the match that we have, but hey, if Grey Warwick also joined the party to the lower bracket, then that would be a hell of a story. And yeah, I believe that you guys can see the bracket right now. Yeah, LSE, Bristol Man, taking the L's. If we can have Kill Krakens beat Grey Warwick, and then Imperial Apes beat Deus Ex.
That would be another impressive matchup in the low. I mean, you'd have the lower bracket of death, to say the least. I feel like that's more. I don't even know if I could call it a death. That would probably be a massacre of a lower bracket. You might end up with some very unexpected matchups in the grand finals, but it's League of Legends, so anything can happen.
Yep. And I'm just excited to bring it on. Yeah. So what else? What else could we go through? I think bot lane we actually haven't talked too much about, have we? Um,
Yeah, I
unless
mean, at the moment, bot meta relatively similar, but it is worth noting that we do have the B patch that's come out, so some changes are present, most notably with the Lucian gaining 10% extra damage on that on-hit effect that you get if you get buffed by an enchanter, or any effect for that matter, or also the Ashe changes where she's got a lot of mana reduced on her W, an extra 20 seconds, leading to I believe, an 80-second ult cooldown, which is relatively significant for that champion. And as such, we have been seeing a lot more Ashe pop up.
yeah, and I mean I just love it whenever it comes up in the meta. The arrows are an insane way of just starting up fights, looking for picks, and I am currently being told that we are just gonna go into the short break, let the teams sort themselves out, and then we'll be back for some League of Legends. Welcome back to the League of Legends Varsity Playoffs, brought to you by Twitch Student and Intel. Still Ketchka, still joined by Takua, and all four of the top teams have been knocked down to lower bracket.
The bracket of bloodshed has been formed. We have Grey Warwick versus Exeter and LSE versus Bristol Mandem. I can't say that anyone expected this, and I almost feel as if we cursed her by mentioning it in pre-game.
Probably. I mean, I remember casting Kill Krakens in the last chance qualifier, and I said, hey, it would be funny if they, made a run, but they're probably going to face Grey Warwick in round 1. They did, and they beat them. So, there is that. So, just to get back on track, expectations have been subverted, but now, I mean, as you guys can see, we're gonna have our top teams from regular season battling it out in the lower bracket to stay alive in the tournament. LSE versus Bristol Mandem is the game we're gonna be covering. I mean, I kind of just can't wait. We already talked about the lanes that we're going to be the most excited for now. Also, all these stakes that even if you win, you're gonna be facing Grey Warwick or Deus Ex. Those aren't easy matches.
It's scary. It's really scary thinking about that in lower bracket. Well, you get this win, great, and then you go into another match and you realize, wait, everyone I'm fighting in lower bracket are massive contenders for the title, and then you end up thinking that, oh well, look, if you look at the upper bracket, it's nobody you expect, not a single team you would expect to make it to finals necessarily, will be in the top seed for finals.
Yeah, and boy oh boy, I am expecting some absolute explosives. And yeah, also I do believe that the teams have probably chosen their side, so maybe we can divulge that with LSE should be taking the blue side, right? So they've got the first pick here. Do you have maybe any predictions? What do you think is going to be picked up?
Ooh, it's particularly hard to say. It depends on if they want to take any sort of change, especially from the last one. But generally, you'll be looking for either securing an ADC. If you're looking at blue side, I would very much suggest trying to ban out something for LSE Dogs, particularly the Jinx, because every time I see him playing this champion, they manage to make it work somehow.
Yeah. And you can, of course, see the rosters here. We're going to have Nick, Born This Way. What did we agree on? Oh, Tam, there we go, for LSE Dog and Oxbridge Reject. And yeah, for Bristol Mandem, 3-1-1, Ak, Doomed, Bongs, Benuxis, and Nibble.
Yeah, two rosters you might be familiar with previous NUEL broadcasts, and I still can't get over the fact that this is lower bracket right now. It is mind-boggling to me that you have this situation going on, especially with the way that the qualifications worked out. Actually, thinking back about this, I actually believe these two teams met before in Winter Split for one of the Varsity qualification spots, now that my memory recalls. And last time, LSE barely clutched it out in a reverse sweep.
I'm gonna take your word for it because I don't know if that's true or not for sure. But it would bring a big story because now Mandem also looking for the revenge and revenge from regular season. On top of that, since it was LSE that have taken the win against them, so a lot to play for. This is gonna be a best of 3. I am seeing ours in the chat and actually a lot of now action going on in the chat. So hopefully we'll be getting into those picks and bans anytime soon. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully
Like
we
I
should
said.
be getting. I think the lobby is working. We'll be in the actual pick and ban of the draft shortly, and the chaos in the chat right now. As long as Mandem gets ready, we'll be in for an interesting draft.
Yeah, okay, they're not ready yet. Never mind. So we get to stall for a bit more. Okay, what happened this patch? What is so ADC changes, we already touched on that. Anything else significant?
Honestly, current meta is relatively stale for the most part. If you've been keeping up with Pro Tool or any sort of amateur broadcasts in one way or another, you'll see that, well, for the most part, the priority hasn't changed too much on champions right now. The only two things that are kind of permeating things, as we mentioned, were the ADC changes, and to some extent, the sort of bruiser item rework. And that's pretty much it, to be honest. So, the Zinzals, the Lee Sins, the Dianas, the Jinxes, the Pharoses, you'll still expect to see them.
Alright, but we are finally in the pick and the ban for our first game of this best of 3. And the first ban is going to be the Karthus.
Yeah, if you know anything about the Bristol man, that means you don't really want to let Actium have this sort of jungler. And likewise, they do the same sort of thing with LSE Dogs Jinx. If you've ever watched any sort of NUEL broadcasts or broadcasts at this level of League of Legends, you'll remember that pocket picks are very crucial to be banning out, not just on a comfort level, but also just to get rid of them from... I mean, they're experienced on these champions, they're good at them.
Yeah, and talking about experience and being good at champions, we have Zoe that is going to be taken away from Bongs. That Jinx you mentioned against LSE Dog specifically, and LeBlanc. So a lot of focus being put down onto the mid lane of Bristol.
Yeah, and we see a little jungle pick come out from the Lee Sin, trying to target Born this way a little bit. I do expect either a jungle or ADC pick to come out, and there's that Zinzao, something that Born this way has been playing a little bit in NLC Div 2 as well as LSE's own games.
Yeah, and that is a Graves hover. It is going to be locked in.
Well, it has the potential to be flexed. I would expect it to go top. But at the end of the day, we have seen a little bit of Graves jungle recently. But with that Kiana locked in, I mean, to be honest, that's still flexible. If Bonks wants to pilot the Kiana, then it's absolutely possible right now.
Kiana scenario, there we go. It is a placeholder, and that is definitely going towards Bonks. In fact, I believe we have seen him played against Lowhampton.
Yeah, if I'm not
trying to confirm that.
So off the top of my head, but as Catcher confirms that, we do have the Ord Hover, something weak side for Nick. This is sort of the quintessential style of champion that you expect from the LSE top laner. Put him on weak side, put him on a tank, he'll function as part of the team, and that's all you need him to do.
Indeed, and there's the hover on an AD carry here, which Jhin definitely not something that is striking me as very much of a meta pick, but it is going to be locked in nonetheless.
Yeah, Jhin is a bit of an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure what LSE are going for here. I mean, I imagine it's here to try and set up for the mid lane, but oftentimes you don't really see LSE playing for Remy quite as much as the rest of the team. Of course, Jhin can be paired with some more aggressive lane partners in a Pyke, for example, where you can really put on some pressure in the lane, but you would generally see that paired with more standardly aggressive ADCs.
Indeed, Silas. Right, okay, so we have locked in the top side, presumably, for the side of LSE here with, I mean, it has to be Graves jungle, right? I don't think Silas jungle is a thing.
Yeah, I think Silas Jungle has been massively cut down since its heyday. But you never know, honestly. I mean, AP depends on how you really want to play the lanes, but it's really hard to read Bristol's draft right now. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's... I mean, they want to... Like, they've got a lot of champions which are short to melee range. From what I see, Silas I don't hate because of the Ornhorn, but that is realistically the only ultimate you'll want to be stealing, so that is interesting, to say the least. And I need to keep reminding myself this is an Ari, not a Kiana, because I keep falling for that. But I don't think that changes much. Like, still, I think what I've said is true.
The problem is now you kind of got this Silas and where the Silas is going to go. Because yes, it's into an Ornn, it's probably not too bad in a top lane matchup, but Silas historically really struggles in being restrained to just sit in the top lane versus a lot of matchups. And I mean, I guess you're probably just putting the Graves in the jungle at this point, especially with that Ashe lock in, to try and, I suppose, provide a bit more support for this mid-jungle duo.
Yeah, the utility of the arrow, I like the spell a lot, as I have already mentioned in the pre-game. And also, I don't think you need more damage if you are Mandem right now, so that does make sense as not one of those hyper carry ADCs, and that's not a legit Teemo. I hope I'm gonna hear that what that's a placeholder for quickly.
I mean, Teemo's support, I'm down for it. Blind the Ashe, she can't slow you with the frost shot. That sounds like profit to me, but no, I do agree. I don't expect that to actually be a Teemo. We'll get information on the proxies as they come in, but we're just waiting for the last two picks of the game. I would like to see. Okay, so Teemo is naught. That is something that Oxford Reject is known for, as just putting some engage in the bot side, as we get a final Victor lock in for Remy. A little bit of a scaling mid lane, and on the whole, I see so much scaling on the side of LSE.
I mean, absolutely. You know, you've got the Jhin, you've got the Victor as your carries, you've got a solid frontline with Engage, and Xin functions as, you know, your early game bridge, but also doesn't fall off the face of the earth completely. So now it's a question of what do Mandem do really to respond to that.
There you have it. There is the response in the Braum Ashe from the bot lane of slows. You will be permafrosted by the two of them. Old TFT Glacial if you've ever played some of that back in the day, but very defensive bot. I don't really expect to see much action there. And well, I guess we'll wait until we get everything in place, because the Silas, albeit I don't think it will happen, can still technically jungle.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll put a pin in that, but I think I am expecting to see that Graves in the jungle here, honestly. So we'll see what it ends up being. Now, also, Braum makes sense as a pick into Ornn specifically when you are looking to teamfight, or if you are looking to teamfight rather, and denying that Ornhorn will be massive. And yeah, let's talk about what do Bristol Mandem want to do, because we have already mentioned scaling kind of teamfighting comp is the flavor of the game here for LSE, but Mandem, does it differ much, or is it roughly the same?
Right, so Mandem actually have a really AP heavy topside if you minus the Graves out with the Ari and the Silas. The problem is that I don't really see how Silas is going to be getting any sort of leads here, so the way I see it is this Graves and Ari really going to try and work together with the synergy between the two. Ari with the 3 dashes and more on reset now can actually provide a lot of extra utility to combine with the Graves mid jungle and probably just make plays elsewhere. The issue is I don't know how much you can target the bot side. Yes, I think Nautilus isn't quite as defensive, so maybe you end up seeing mid jungle pivoting to bot or top side.
Alright then. Well, we've got all the lanes. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, we're in for a very boring early game. From what I see. I mean, mid lane maybe has some potential for action, but then I just expect Remy to be playing very defensively into Bongsari.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Victor has decent early trading, but Ari does as well, and generally with the extra mobility and the potential with the charm, you're going to be winning out on most trades early on as the Ari and probably getting priority until Remy gets that E laser upgrade, because before that, Victor's wave clear isn't actually that stellar. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you. It's probably just going to be a bit of a resident sleeper first 15 minutes or so, but you never really know. But hey, What can you expect before we load onto the Rift?
Well, that's what we have a whole 3 minutes to figure out. What can we expect? I mean, priority, I guess, is a useful way to talk about it. So you already mentioned, I mean, let's just make it explicitly clear mid lane that Ahri also can match Victor's early game capabilities in massive quotation marks. So should we just expect Bonks to have priority in the mid lane generally, or are there any exceptions to that?
In general, yes. Ahri's wave clear is immensely strong with her orb of perception in her Q, and will be able to shove waves much faster than Victor early on in the game. That's the thing. Bolt should be able to use this power in theory to be able to try and roam with Act Doomed, but it's just whether or not they can actually do something to the other lanes or the other areas that they can roam in, because right now I see it all in the top lane, not someone who's particularly easy to dive, and Jhin Nautilus, albeit a little bit easier, is also not a great target.
Yeah, not at all. And well, talking about the Nautilus, hooks early on, they can always stir something up. Again, in the bot lane 2v2 might be a bit difficult into Nibble's Braum, but if you do manage to find your way into the mid lane before level 6, then Bonks is a vulnerable target.
Yeah, it's just about sort of trying to unlock these roams almost. Yeah, Nautilus can be a really good roamer in these positions, but the problem is that Jhin doesn't necessarily always have the push. Ashe can do that relatively well, and it's just it's really tough to say without actually being able to see how people end up playing the lanes, because
yeah,
the way I see the spot lane, it's honestly somewhat volatile if people aren't playing defensively.
No, I agree. Especially level 6, Ashe Braum is kind of known for its power spike, or at least I know I'm a bit of a Braum enthusiast in solo queue. Whenever I'm with an Ashe, you hit level 6, you just drop the ultimates because people just don't see that one coming. It should be a free kill, of course. The level of playing is much higher than solo queue. But that still kind of applies. If you manage to find the rest of your team towards bot lane, you hit those ultimates, I don't think Dog has much to do, really.
Yeah, again, it's really about seeing whether Born This Way or Ak is Doomed, and I guess with Bonks and Remy respectively, is whether they can unlock either the top or the bot side in any way, shape or form. It's not going to be particularly easy to do, and it might end up just being a scaling game, as we mentioned, but that's the hope at least. If you guys want some action out there, then you better hope that these junglers are being really proactive and going for their lanes.
Well, hey, technically a Xin should be proactive, but then again, those lanes are tough to gank, so it's gonna be a challenge. Will the junglers be able to find their ganks? Will the lanes make any mistakes? Or will we maybe see some laners step up and find opportunities where we didn't expect them to come up? It all remains to be seen. Also, guys, remember, this is a game 1. We have a whole best of 3 ahead of us, but this really, I feel like, should be taken as a tone setter for the entire the word escapes me. The entire series. There we go.
Yeah, generally when you have the first game of series, you sort of... I mean, this is almost like a perfect way to discuss this, because you have two relatively safe, relatively reserved compositions. In the first game, you can do this, and you can try and figure out general playstyle things, maybe weaken mental, so on and so forth, and that gives you more information, more intel coming into the second game for how you should prepare in draft and for the game.
Yeah. Also, glad to see LSE Dog is running that cleanse, something which I thought whether or not to bring up, but then I kind of figured out that, well, he should very well be running the cleanse. I better hope he does. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, into Ashe Braum, yeah, I would say so. I mean, Ari, yeah, Silas can steal some stuff. Not, I mean, Depth Charge you can't really cleanse, so maybe not on the Silas end. But I suppose if you really want to cleanse chains, then that's there. But mostly it's going to be for the Ashe ult, the Braum CC, and potentially the Ari Charm. Yep, I would agree. If he wasn't taking the cleanse, I would very much be calling you out on that, especially as an ADC player. But we will see. I don't actually see anything particularly unusual in runes either. That's all very standard as far as the game goes. So I guess we'll wait and see.
we will have to just see whether that comes up. I also, well, something just to bring up. I've seen some people press the attack on Ashe, but Nux is opting into the lethal tempo, which I think is definitely the correct choice, especially when you have, well, an Ornn, a Nautilus, and a Xin staring down, you're gonna have to be unloading quite a bit of DPS onto tanky targets.
Is the name of the game. There's a lot of potential threats here. Both sides of the map. You never really know about level 1s. I'm not necessarily expecting something, but we shall wait.
Yeah. Alright, and I believe we are finally in the game! First map for Bristol Mandem taking on LSE, and both the teams are invading. Unfortunately, they are invading the opposite sides.
Yeah, no level 1 clash today. I think Remy will be quite happy with that one, given, well, LSE in general will be quite happy with that one, given the way that the U-Besta one started. But outside of that, it's probably just a little bit of warding, a little bit of scouting, and then you go back to your regular clears. Possibly just a top down, unless they decide to start at enemy buffs. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, it does remain to be seen, as both teams taking the regular precautions just to make sure that no one will be spotting them out. But I think they should realize at this point that this is what has indeed occurred, and the recalls are being channeled from the side of LSE. Born this way, going back. However, Mandem staying on this buff.
Fortunately, Born This Way is parving topside, so he won't be caught out, but the key thing is that they don't have vision on this bot side buff, so it may end up being the case that Xin decides to go and parve straight into bot side, but because they have some vision top, they might know and figure out just by deduction that, well, hey, there's no one in this topside area, so they've either started bot with a leash, or they've just started on our buff, and then I can go to their buff straight away. So we'll see how Born This Way decides to parve this one, but the smart thing would be do here would be to see, well, if he's on chickens by now, then you know he's started top. And then you don't go top side. If you don't see him on chickens, then you could probably just go for the invade.
Yeah, we'll see what the response is. I mean, Agdoom has been now spotted by the ward on the Raptor, so his exact pathing has been known, and he is going to return to his own blue side jungle. A bit of a lead for Bong sitting at level 2 before Remy, and so should be able to bully him out just a little bit.
There we go, gonna hit 2 at the same time. Born This Way immediately coming in, though.
Yeah, looking in for the gank flash away from Bong's flash, follow through from Born This Way. He finds the knockup flash, auto attack from Remy, and LSE secure first one in the mid lane, but it's a 1-for-1.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate there. Maybe a slightly earlier flash, or if Born This Way went for the kill rather than trying to donate it to the victor, maybe you would have got the first blood and just got away with it, but Bristol is so happy with getting that trade in the mid lane. It means that in the end of the day, it's not actually that bad for you. Yes, Victor gets the extra hex bits, but you at least still get the gold, and they might actually catch us in out in this topside jungle.
Yeah, Born This Way is trying to take the red buff, but he is very low, and there's the small screen going down. Bonks over the wall, will take the kill. I mean, that's a disaster for Born This Way.
Yeah, he really got a little bit greedy there going back into the jungle. You know that he probably didn't parve up there immediately. You had the vision, but going straight for the blue buff after you went for a the red buff even after you went for a mid gank, too keen on that one.
Yeah, and this means that a bit of an early lead is going to be secured for Mandem. Maybe not necessarily the best not to quantify in terms of gold, but CS advantage for Benuxis in the bot lane now. Agdoom will essentially have a 3 buff when he decides to take his own blue buff in the bot lane, and, well, Bonk's behind on CS, but has got those 2 kills.
Yeah, the problem is now Born This Way has been set pretty damn far behind, and you kind of really need to keep making some more proactive plays right now to actually be able to get ahead, and as I speak about doing that, well,
He did try. Unfortunately, all the engage was already used.
Well, on the bright side, at least LSE should be able to try and get that crash from the slow push there in the bot lane, get that in, get a reset. But what in the world is he doing?
I mean, Born This Way needs to invade to try and find something, but I just love how aggressively the laners of Mandem are defending their jungle. Look at the collapse. Bot lane and mid lane are coming in. The Orb of Deception will be coming out. Still, Bong's holding onto the charm. Born This Way is getting all the charm. Goes wide. The hook connects down onto the Graves, and Agdoom is going to go down to Remy as the counter invade comes through from LSE.
Problem there was just partly because of the pathing and the only way that Benuxus and Nibble could actually path straight to the mid lane. They couldn't actually go for river because they didn't have the priority. They had to take the long way around, and that actually means that LSE Dog and Oxford Reject can get to the play before they can, and that ends up meaning that Born This Way somehow gets out of their scot-free.
Yeah, which really is, I mean, runs counter to everything we've been expecting and kind of manages to equalize this jungle matchup a bit. Still, the blue buff stands for Agdoom, so he will be able to find those 3 buffs, but Born This Way able to catch up on CS and isn't terribly behind. That early game play, Mandem didn't get anything from it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, yes, Born This Way did die early on. You got the trade on Remy. In the whole, it's actually relatively even, and given the situation with Victor's very happy just getting kills and trading this on early because it means he gets to that E evolve much faster. But getting an early Mountain Drake for Bristol, I think you'll take that too. It's a really good standalone Drake, and you get those nice little resistances.
Yep, LSE Dog waiting over the wall, seeing if he can get an opportunistic steal. No vision, it went out too early. It's going to be an easy smite, and as he said, a nice bit of resistances and a pretty good stat buff here from Mandem, but nothing substantial really.
Yeah, the only problem with Doom going for this Drake so early on in the game, yes, you want to get the dragon stacking, especially in a scaling game where now that you know that Cloud Soul isn't revealed, Cloud Soul cannot happen, it's even better, but it might be a top dive.
It is indeed as Remy makes his way up towards the top lane, 3-on-1, trying to use that hijack. Crescent Guard Nick will be able to just survive 3-1-1 on his sliver of health, and Remy should be able to chase him down. That is the healing coming in from the Kingslayer. Bonks is now up here, connects the charm, drops the ignite, and with the Spirit Rush, should be able to make it a 1-for-1 with Born This Way and Nick both being way too low to help.
I mean, it's just props to 311 for honestly making the outplay there, recognizing, well, they're going to dive me. I'm just going to steal the Crescent Guard. Zin doesn't even have that available, but I do because I have the hijack. I'm going to bounce them away from the tower and force so much HP out of LSE. Yes, they get the kill and no one initially died, but it bought enough time for Bonks to get up there, salvage the play, and somehow go even again for the 3rd time on a play.
Well, that is true. I do want to mention the fact that we are seeing a growing CS lead in this mid lane, and Remy also had the priority to roam. Like, the expectation pregame was that Bonk should be the one controlling the lane.
Yeah, and this is in part due to the fact that Remy has gotten so many kills early on. He has that evolve very, very prematurely. Now he can pretty much match everything Bonks is doing. This is not something you tend to see on the Victor. He's basically gotten accelerated, and that dramatically changes the way that Victor can play the game.
Yeah, as a bit of an invade happening from Agdoom, and LSE are maybe looking to respond, but Remy definitely cut out. Will flash over the wall from Bonks. He misses the charm, but Agdoom still finds the kill. So maybe just a few too many resources committed from Mandem, but the kill is a kill.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have a little bit of vision on the top side, but not quite enough on that one. Mandem really good recognition to see, well, we can actually make this play down here. They know that we're sort of might be in proximity because Silas isn't in vision, but you catch Remy out, you get a kill for free there, and you're trying to even out the, I guess it was a minor gold lead for LSE, but you kind of even that out. You're sitting pretty on a Drake. Go for the next one, get that stacked up, and whatever soul it will probably be very useful for you.
Oh yeah, we've got what? Infernal Hextech Ocean.
Yeah.
Those are the options, and
Yeah.
all of them are win conditions in and of themselves, I feel like. With Oceans sometimes being conditional, but I feel like it works pretty well for both of these squads.
Yeah, I don't really think LSE are particularly burst damage based. They're not really. I mean, they have a little bit of poke in the Victor and the Jim, but it's not particular. It's not enough to the point where the Ocean Soul will get, I suppose, diminished value out of this. But in the whole, these fights are going to be going down a little bit slower, and you get the extra healing from that. That's really nice. I do like to see that Born This Way is trying to go for a Rift Herald to try and match out and try and get some more gold back in his pocket, and he's actually done a relatively good job of evening out the CS lead, but likewise, Doom has actually put out some pressure in the lanes.
Ooh, Bong's looking for a dive bot lane. LSE Dog does have the cleanse. The arrow connects, but he cleanses straight into the charm. Bongs has a lot of crowd control drop down onto him. Here comes the Orn Horn. It is probably. Oh no! Bongs dodges that away with a Spirit Rush, and he's still on the run. Down comes the Glacial Fissure, and Nick is stunned in place. 2 quick kills for Bristol Mandem, and the bot lane of LSE in disarray.
Well, I mean, this is just a brilliant collapse from Mandem. There's not much more to it than that. You cannot cleanse everything. You can cleanse the arrow, but that means you could delay the charm a little bit, and then LSE Dog is forced to make the decision about whether you tried. You can only do one. You can't cleanse both of them. Layering the CC really well, forcing the cooldowns out, and winning out on the play there.
The goldie isn't necessarily big, but it's good to see Bonks use that RE pick to roll around the map. I mean, 100% kill participation, you know you're doing something right. We've got now the Eclipse for Agdoom as well, so the items are starting to stack in favor of Mandem, and one thing to bring up is by mid-game with the Ash Arrow, their pick potential is going to be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, Ash is pretty happy, but Nuxus is very happy to just sit there, throw out some arrows from Crossmac, roam to the areas that you want to roam to, get your farm up, and that still enables the team whilst all this is going on. I mean, you're really sitting pretty as a team that kind of wants to convert into the later game. Right now, you're getting priority over the Drake as well, with the vision setup in the bot side, so I would expect to see a fight going on.
Yeah, Agdoom and Nibble are going to find Born this way. That was a flash to the mid lane from Walks, which reject. The arrow is going to find its way onto Born this way. Bong's on the way by Remy. In the middle, we have a fight on two fronts. Born this way, so incredibly low, but now the supports are taking all the damage, and the curtain call coming in from the side, gonna chunk down the members of Bristol Mandem. Agdoom taken down to about a third of the health. Deadly Flourish is gonna keep in place. That's the flash forward from Nick. Agdoom is getting healed up, but not quite enough. Trying to dash and stay alive, will be getting shut down at the end of the day, but Venuxus and Bonks in the backside untouched will hail the damage down onto LSE. LSE Dog is dead. It's a 4-for-2 with a double for Bonks and Benuxus.
And you just have to give it to Benuxus. That cross-map arrow basically enabled the play here. They get another one!
It's an ace! It's a delayed one, but it's an ace nonetheless at 12 minutes for Bristol Mandem, and they just blew the game wide open here.
Wow, I mean, Bonks with the roam, putting out the damage as Ari, Benuxus landing that cross-map arrow to pretty much knock Born this way out of the fight before it even began, and the fact that with the Eclipse, the amount of healing that Doom actually managed to put out before going down was absurd. They now secure their second Drake, they get a significant gold lead at this point in the game, and suddenly LSE is going to have a much harder time trying to keep up and scale into the later game.
Yeah, this is going to be looking dangerous. I mean, I don't think it's in the doomed territory yet.
No,
although, Bonks is looking massive. 6-1 and 5, got that loot in Seko. However, we've got mythics being picked up on the side of LSE. So slowing down a bit the crown on Remy is going to be huge, and also Gold Drinker on Born this way. So maybe the next fight isn't going to be as one-sided.
Yeah, fortunately, Born this way is going to be able to cash in this tower. Will be the first tower on the top side, so that will even out the gold significantly between Remy and Born this way, which is pretty much what you want to do, is to try and get as much gold as you humanly can during this period to make sure you're not too disadvantaged. However, Benuxus is getting the XP and the gold from the bot side, so it is sort of being matched.
The Herald is going to get the charge onto tier 2, and 3-on-1 can't possibly defend this tower. Maybe the wave is going to get cut short as Bonks caught out in the jungle. Spirit rushes away, connects the charm onto Uggs with reject. The depth charge will be dropped down. Agdoom with the collateral damage, not quite enough damage, and 3-on-1 will secure the kill. The curtain call from the side. The fourth shot will be dashed away from double kill, picked up by 3-1-1 Silas.
Initially, it seemed to be a really nice read to recognize, oh, well, maybe Bonks will come up for the roam. You get the court, you almost catch out Bonks, but then you overcommit, and you end up losing 2 for it, which is pretty much the opposite of what you want to happen in this topside play. Yes, you get the charge, yes, you get the tower, but by losing 2 in return, I'm not entirely sure if that's worthwhile.
This puts 3-1-1 on the board, and actually is going to make the Silas somewhat significant. That was the one lane which was in a neutral state for LSE, and it's exactly what you want when you have an Ornn playing in the top lane.
Yeah, and here's the thing, something you have to remember in these sorts of things. Yes, it's the first game of the day, but sometimes just the mental going from game 1 and coming from game 1 can really have an impact on the rest of the series. And right now, with the way that I'm seeing LSE play with these forces, with these relatively aggressive plays, yes, that's kind of what you want to do in this game state, but it can feel a little bit overzealous at times, and I hope that they manage to reel that back in a little bit as the game progresses.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned mental. I have beaten that point to death, but you are in the losers bracket. Both these teams lost their first games, not expecting really to do that based on the regular season standings. And yeah, now if you are LSE, you're doing well gold-wise. I don't think I have to bring that point. They aren't massively behind. It's less than 1.5 thousand, but you have lost quite a few fights. A few plays you made have backfired, and you are getting stacked against with an Infernal Soul.
That's the thing. You're under elimination right now. The loser of this best of three drops out the tournament entirely, and that's the end of your season. And for this LSE roster, hell, it might actually be their last dance, given the fact that some of these members will not be able to play the next time for the split.
Yeah, so you really want to make a good showing, and let's see, the Herald is going to be started. I feel like we are seeing another fight. The arrow is going to come out, connects onto Oaks, which reject Glacial Fisher going down, and LSE Dog is the target. Punks just blows him up immediately, and it's 2 kills for Bristol Man, and make that a third one. The Herald has been secured by Bo in this way, but at what cost? As 4 members of LSE will go down, maybe even 5. That is going to be the Absconded Abduct connecting onto Remy, but he is very tanky with the crown, and should be able to just stay alive.
And this is exactly what I'm on about. I don't know if Remy's even going to live right now.
He does, but it's so damn close. Actio is going to dash forward and takes him out.
Wow. Bristol Man, them stepping up to the plate saying, no, we don't want to be knocked out today. We're going to show you our best form of this team. And we're going to be the ones to take you out. You beat us last time. We're going to show you who's best. And let's see if they can keep going with it.
The crit. Oh, it tries to curve it onto 3-on-1, but there is no target to be found over there. Well, this is now 5,000 complete. Yes, yeah. That fight significantly changes things. This Herald is going to get the mid lane tier 1, so you get something back for LSE, but I feel like right now is the point where we stop and we look at this game of like, right, LSE aren't anymore getting things that are equivalent, they are getting the worst deal straight up.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, it seemed like they're almost overforcing in some cases, and I hate to say it, but now it almost feels like you kind of have to do that anyway in some circumstances because of where you are in the game. You have bounties, so I think the best idea would be to play for that. Trying to get that bot tier 1 would actually be massively beneficial in terms of the amount of money you get for it, but with the Drake spawning, that's going to be a lot harder to do.
Yeah, and Remy potentially caught out by 3-1-1. The crown is going to buy some time. The stun comes down with the gravity field. The hijack Chaos Storm doing a bit of damage. Brings Remy down to half. And the dragon is spawned. The Chaos... Oh, here comes Bonks! It's huge! It's legendary, in fact. And 3-1-1 is going to help himself to a kill onto Oxbridge Reject. That's going to be the dragon.
This Ahri is unleashed. That's all I have to say right now. Bonk's looking absolutely insane. You banned out the Zoe, but you didn't ban out the Ahri, and that's what you get for it this time. Honestly, making the plays happen right now, recognizing that 3-1-1 managed to zone out too. They're probably still down here. I'm full HP. They're not. I'm a really fed Ahri. I could probably just kill them. The confidence is there, and the execution is as well.
Yeah, if we take a look at the individual gold advantages, it doesn't feel as massive. I'm gonna be honest for how much damage Bonks is doing, but still, that is over 2,000 over the... Oh, you know what? Never mind. I forgot we're still pre-20 minutes. This is the big lead.
Yeah. Yep. It's 18 minutes, everyone. They have 3 Drakes and a 10-1 and 9 Ahri at 18 minutes.
This game has been accelerated so much, I honestly felt like it was 25 minutes or something around that number, but no, we're still pre-20.
I mean, we were talking pre-game about both teams not necessarily having early tools to snowball, and we're in a position where Bristol have snowballed the game.
Well, we were wrong. There we go. This is why you don't put 2 play-by-play casters on a cast together.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Let's see what LSE can do at the end of the day, because right now they've been making desperation plays and they can continue to do it.
Bonks is going to get knocked back. He is rooted in place, taken down to half health. Keep your eye on that. Ari, he is dead. Beautiful shot from LSE Dog, but is it enough to win the fight? Because Benuk says he's still dealing a lot of damage. And Octave Reject almost dead. Nibble flashes forward, flash away from LSE Dog. We have a 1-for-1 with Bonks going down. That is basically the best case scenario for LSE. And we can see Mandem, they aren't about to give up. The slow coming in from the trap. They are gonna take the blue buff away and the fight's over.
If you're an LSE fan, that's exactly what you want. You get the shutdown on the most valuable target of their team. That's something, at least. But Bournemouth's way may be looking for something more.
Yeah, but so is Agdoom. He's gonna get knocked up. Has got that healing. Beautiful, unbreakable from Nibble. Denies the kill from LSE Dog, and he picks up the double. Nick teleporting in. Yeah, I don't think you can do there a lot.
At the end of the day, yeah, you've got to make these plays, try and get the kill. That's exactly what we saw beforehand onto Bonks. They managed to secure the shutdown, but then you go in again. You're 2v2 versus a team that is ahead in gold, further ahead in gold than you. That generally doesn't work.
It does not. However, we're gonna see even more fights. Octave Reject gets nuked in on the spot, and Nick is gonna get chased away by Benuxis, so that should be the Baron. Picked up by Mandem. Nibble is low. Remy is walking up. This Baron is going very fast, though, courtesy of the Ash, and it should be taken by Mandem. There we go. Smite comes through.
Wow. This is quite the lead that's amounting right now for Bristol. Massive plays coming through. You're matching LSE every single time. And it's all I can say is congratulations and props for managing to do that right now. You're probably just looking to secure the soul, use the Baron buff, push out some lanes, and pretty much just slowly win the game with the gold lead at this point.
Yeah, I would also argue you want to probably do this clean as you can. Oh, that is a blind arrow. Connecting onto Born this way. The Fissure will be coming down and forces the Crescent Guard. 2 ultimates for 1. Not the best trade for Mandem, but the arrow is an expendable one.
Yeah, right now. Split the lanes. I mean, currently you have people going mid, trying to best use this Baron buff. Unfortunately, you are... Honestly, I mean, you're even in towers for the most part, but you want to get more of this siege down with 3-1-1 taking the depth charge.
For Remy, who's got the flash. Depth charge is inevitable, unfortunately, and that is a beautiful laying of crowd control. Agdoom on a killing spree. That should be the soul, especially if Born this way. He gets caught out in the mid lane, which he doesn't realize what is coming. Will have to run away to the jungle. Oh no, 3-on-1 going over the wall. Nick is going to be the target. He is unstoppable, but unfortunately your HP can still go down, mate. And that is Benuxis taking another kill. LSE though can't do a damn thing.
You know what? I said that Bristol should try and use the Baron buff, but instead they use the Baron buff and the extra stats it gives you to just kill the members of LSE. I suppose that's another way of thinking about the game, but there you go, 2 easy kills. LSE a little bit spread, trying to make these plays, trying to find picks, but no, it just gets matched by Bristol. They're recognizing the fact that LSE are trying to do that because they've been doing it all game, and are matching it beautifully.
Yeah. And there, okay, let's see. We have the curtain calls coming out. That is a bit of an interesting one to follow. No one dies.
Great Mexican standoff right there between LSE Dog and 3-on-1, albeit they can't actually hit each other because they're at some sort of diagonal angle. I don't think I've ever seen that before with like 2 Jhin ultimates.
I mean, I've seen 5 into 1 for all. That's fun. When you just pick Jhin and you go to a shooting range. Bonus points if the enemy is playing something that's immobile.
Jhin versus Zara, 4-for-1. I've never been in that, but
God.
that sounds like a fiesta.
Yeah, you could put that this way. And I mean, let's be honest. Bristol Mandem, this game should be like, this game is effectively won. They've got the soul picked up now. This is effectively a stomp in case someone on stream wants us to say this explicitly. Yes, Bristol Mandem are stomping LSE. There we go.
There you go. And if you look at the record, it's happened occasionally during the winter meet, originally within the regular season on non-varsity, just the regular season of NUEL. And yes, they beat them in the best of 1 last time, but this can happen. We'll see what the adaptations are next game. I mean, maybe I'm calling it too early, but it is Bristol's game to lose at this point.
Yeah.
I would maybe like to see either ways of matching this proactivity or just less forceful with the plays that you're making, because I felt like, well, yes, Zin wants to be proactive, but you've got some members that don't necessarily want to do that, and then it ended up being a little bit overforced.
Yeah, and yeah, Bonks was just able to respond to basically everything thrown in the first few minutes by LSE and pick up quite a few of those kills. Now LSE going in for a last-ditch engage. Let's see how this goes. 3-on-1, both very low. Portugal is going to tag onto Benuxes. Look at Bonks from the side, though. That is the first shutdown of the fight, but that Ari is hungry for blood. And Bonks destroys LSE, though. That's the carry. He's almost dead. Only Remy alive. He's going to try to deal some damage, but that is not going to be enough. An ace for one, and that will be the game. With Bristol Mandem scoring the first win in the elimination match against LSE.
Really hungry. They're making sure that they aren't being disrespected, recognizing this is elimination, we're fighting for our lives, and damn, they are proving it.
Yep, and Bonk stepping up massively in this game. We have highlighted him as one of the players to watch for Bristol Mandem. He has been their standout performer for most of the regular split, and proving it once again. I think it was 100 kill participation for a good part of this game. And yeah, when it comes to adaptation, you have to start by making sure Bonks doesn't get ahead if you're LSE.
Here's the thing. Your mid laner, Remy, is not necessarily the most comfortable mid laner. He's not a mid laner by career as some of the other mids in this tournament. In fact, most of them playing in this tournament are. That's not his native role. You're playing against a very proficient mid laner in Bonks, and it just shows here. Bristol recognizing that this is the big point of weakness in LSE, and we're going to try and use Bonks alongside the jungle to facilitate that, to pretty much target Remy out.
Yeah, and we haven't seen really anything stick in this first game from LSE. Thankfully, they still have one more game. So, I mean, I am just hoping that we are going to see some adaptation from LSE. It would be a shame to see them go down without fight, but I think we are gonna find out after the break, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll be back in a moment as we get the lobby set up, let the teams rest a little bit, discuss, and figure out exactly what's going next. And, well, let's see if they can sort of come back from that, because I can't imagine the mental's in the best state.
Welcome back after the break, everyone, to the League of Legends Varsity Playoffs, brought to you by Twitch Student and Intel. I'm still Kachka, still joined by Takua, and we are casting the round 1 losers bracket match between LSE, Leviathan's Team 1, and Bristol Mandem. And Bristol Mandem absolutely destroyed LSE in the game 1.
Yeah, ended up pretty much snowballing from early game. What we set out to be a relatively paced game, well paced from both teams. You want to scale up. Ended up just being a pretty scrappy snowball fest in favor of Bristol after some plays went south for LSE between the mid-jungle of both teams.
Yeah, I feel like Bonks is definitely the person we have to watch coming into the second game, especially because he was just all over the map, right? I think we were at 13 kills for sure, that's what I remember. 6-1 and... No, it was 11 kills. 6-1 and 5 was the scoreline for Bonks, involved in every single one of them. And it just felt like LSE had no response to that.
Yeah, it ended up being, well, they sort of had the right idea by trying to make plays that are a little bit more coin flip, or just going in for try and get shutdowns. They managed to get the shutdown onto Bonks, but it did feel like you go for one play, you succeeded on it, and then you just went for another one straight off the bat that you aren't necessarily going to succeed because we're not even. And I think we're going to draft straight away.
We are indeed. LSE taking the blue side, and I mean, we talked in the break that, you know, we like that decision. I think we both agreed that LSE on blue side probably better than red side.
Yeah, LSE's playstyle doesn't really lend too much to the counter pick. Generally, when you want the R5, you have somebody in typically the top lane or the mid lane that really wants a unusual or a pick that tends to do better in a counter pick situation. But Nick is often on tanks, and Remy is not a mid laner by profession, so not something you really want priority on.
3 bans against Bonks. I believe Karthus was taken away from Agdoom in game 1, so that is now open as LSE just full on ban out the mid laner of Mandem. Teemo is Karma.
Teemo is Karma. Interesting they're opting for a first rotation come. Now, from what I remember, Nick is not particularly versed on this champion, so I actually have a feeling that's either going to just straight up Oxbridge redirect in support, or potentially going to Remy here for a little bit of adaptation in game 2, recognizing that maybe we don't put so much emphasis on Remy to play an AP carry, we just put him on something a little bit more supportive and hope that benefits the team more holistically.
Well, we're gonna find out, but Agdoom getting the Graves again. I think it is still worth pointing out technically a flex, but after a solid Graves performance, I don't suppose that will be changing too much. So running it back for Mandeman. If it's not broken, why the hell would you mess with it? That looks like a placeholder, however.
It could well be, but the Annie's potential to burst something out. We'll wait for a moment to be notified on whether that is a proxy or not. But yes, the Graves, very fast clearer. We saw Agdoomed manage to move around the map relatively well. Out farm, obviously, there was the nice little invade shenanigans going on. And Annie is a Maokai.
I don't have anything good to say. Support, I would assume.
Tank versus tank top?
When was the last time Maokai was a top laner? I'm trying to think. Season 7?
Recently.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
But we'll wait and see. It is a flex for the time being. You can definitely pivot it towards the top side. Yes, as you mentioned, Kachigari is more common in the sport, and I think everyone would agree with that. But what I do like to see is this Olaf coming through for Born This Way. They're realizing, yes, this is our best player on the team. Let's just put him on the carry. Let's have a little bit more of a supportive general framework around him, and that's the way we're going to do this, rather than the more proactive ganking style that we saw last time. And I do kind of like this, because now this forces Bristol to kind of play in a slightly different way than they did before.
I mean, straight away the difference is if you're playing Olaf, you are looking to secure the first 2 dragons. That is something we should be expecting, I believe, of Born This Way in this match. And last time around, let's try that sentence again. Last time around, it was of course Bristol Mandem to secure the first dragons and the early game lead. Interesting to see the Silas seeing the appearance once again, but I mean, hey, Call of the Forge God is a good ultimate, so why not?
Yeah, very nice. And to be honest, it was absolutely fine. The Ornn and the Silas kind of just sat there in the top lane. Was a very even lane state for most of the game until 3-1-1 started getting a few kills and some of the skirmishes that were going on by the virtue of Remy and Born This Way trying to make plays up there. Yeah, it worked the first time. You could just run back the matchup, let it stall out, and then wait for later game or wait for team fights where the Silas works out.
Alright, looking at the phase 2 bans, we still have that Lissandra taken away and Twisted Fate, so Mandem betting on that Karma going to Oxbridge Reject, whereas AD carry is being removed from Benuxis, but Zeri is taken away. Samira was the ban last time round. I wonder if we're going to see the Ashe taken away, or if they are going to stick with that Samira.
It would be interesting to see exactly what happens here from the bot side. So yeah, you have the Graves again, you have the Maokai, the size is probably, it could just be going top like last game, or you could bring it to Bonks right now. But I would imagine they probably want to put the Nuxus on something, either like the Ashe that's more supportive so you can enable Bonks, or you could potentially play for bot side, but I would imagine that you're probably still trying to support Bonks with something as we get Syndra rocking.
I mean, Syndra, not necessarily a very mobile assassin, but a champion that snowballs like all hell. So I still kind of like that for Benuxis. We'll see what the response is. Remember that Teemo is a Karma, so we could see that being flexed into the mid lane, could go support, almost definitely not going to the top lane. I mean, Karma Caitlyn is definitely a viable bot lane.
Yep. Very impressive one at that. You can keep pushing into them, and now with the TP changes from this season, you're in isolation, and the bot side, they're going to have to face the wrath of you, and that means that they're going to have to match with some sort of jungle pressure or mid roam to come into it, because you're going to be pushing that lane out a lot. And it would be interesting to see whether it is the Caitlyn Karma in the bot side, or if the Karma will be mid and we'll have a different pairing there, because that dramatically changes the way that LSE functions. And it will be the Rise. Oh no, the Zillion. Either way, more supportive roaming mid laner. So probably the Karma in the... Well, actually no, they can both be exchangeable, so... I guess we'll wait until the roles get locked in next time, but either way, it's playing for the Olaf.
Absolutely, Karma Zillion both giving up the movement speed buffs, and there we have a Samira being locked in for Benuxus. Spicy. Samira Maokai bot lane? I believe that's what we're having.
I think that's it. I mean, you can see how it functions. Maokai with the knock-up, Samira can come in straight on that one through the passive, dash in and get a lot of extra CC uptime. Works the same way of the root, except it doesn't extend the duration of the knock-up because it's not a knock-up. And then obviously the root coming in from the ultimate as well. Samira can use that to a great extent. But the problem is, early game, I still feel like the pressure between a presumed Karma Caitlyn might be a little bit too much for it, but this is actually a relatively volatile bot lane. We talked about how it might be last time, but this is truly something that can go either way depending on how fights might mechanically get played.
And Nick messed up the ban. Love to see that. But to be fair, I do agree. Yeah. But the point that I did want to make as well is that Samira, since you know the changes that took her from the S tier AD carry, she's no longer super oppressive until like level 3. Caitlyn Karma absolutely can bully out that Samira Maokai using the range advantage in the first 3 levels, and that is what I'm looking at from LSE Dog and Oxbridge Reject. If they can get Prio in the early game and they can carry it forward, sure, that's gonna work, especially if you enable Born this way to farm the jungle. But if that doesn't happen, you're in some deep trouble.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen, then you might end up having similar problems to last game. That's my main concern here. You kind of still have a relatively, I mean, maybe less scaling now, but you have so much, I guess, support for this Olaf that you kind of need these 2 supportive champions to actually get itemization ready. So again, I think a lot of the focus is actually going to be between this jungle matchup and exactly how both junglers want to path. And I mean, we saw the level 1 last time with the buffs changing the way the early game had to be played, and I honestly expect something similar.
I mean, yeah, if you can throw off an Olaf clear, that is you know, a big part of the champion, especially if... Okay, play-by-play brain, go this. Olaf likes low health.
Yep.
Enemies also like when you are on low health. Put the 2 and 2 together. If Born this way gets invaded, he could be not doing very well, let's just put it.
Yeah, Graves is still a capable duelist early on, although I will say that Olaf is much better if the 2 ever meet in the jungle. It's just whether Graves can get it invaded off without the 2 of them meeting, which is very, very possible, and that just depends on your level 1 strategies, where you ward, and how smart you are as a jungler using your deductive reasoning even, to try and figure out where Doomed or Born This Way is pathing on both sides of that.
Yeah. We also have one rerun matchup, the Nick into 3-1-1 on that Ornn Silas. I mean, last time around we saw Nick, you know, holding on early game. Then the dive happened, and 3-1-1 got, well, the first dive happened, then the second dive happened when 3-1 got the double kill. So to be fair, coming into this one, I'd say Nick should be feeling fairly alright given how the first one went until the shenanigans.
Yeah, just hope that your jungler doesn't int you by moving up topwards and then going for a 3-man dive versus Silas, who can steal your ultimate when you don't actually have your ultimate either and you're a level 5 Sin. Not really going to go well given the way that Crescent Guard functions. Crescent Guard, you push them out and you're invulnerable if they can't go into it, and if they want to go into it, they need to be in tower range. So yeah, maybe a little bit of an overforce, so I would say report your jungler on that one, but now he's on an Olaf, might not be trying to be quite as proactive on these ganks and maybe a little bit more greedy for himself.
Yeah, and yeah, talking about that Olaf, I mean, where would Born This Way, if anywhere, be even looking to gank? Because, well, bot lane, the setup isn't great, mid lane you might have the setup, but I would imagine Bongs just will wave clear out of the way for most of the lane.
Yeah, the thing is, Zillion can do it, but it just depends on lane state. If Syndra has a situation where she's forced to play forward because Zillion somehow has a freeze on a Syndra, then yes, Born This Way can easily come in and capitalize on that. But realistically, that shouldn't be happening because Zillion shouldn't necessarily be able to play quite as well. If he's landing as Bomb as well, then maybe, but I don't necessarily expect it to go that way. The threat of the Scatter the Weak and the early zoning power Syndra actually has into a lot of matchups is probably good enough here. So I would say that Remy needs to play a little bit more defensively, just do the Zillion thing and play with your jungle in times when you need to play with your jungle.
Yeah, and the big question given game 1 is, will Bonks be able to repeat that same performance? That is the question that I've got on my mind, although right now he doesn't need to be honest, but Nuxus is playing as Samira, so you've got dual threats, let's be honest, triple threats across the map here for Bristol Mandem. So you gotta watch all 3 lanes of your LSE, and that is scary when you're 1 game away from being eliminated.
And that's the thing, you know that as your team right now, you cannot afford to lose this game because that's your split. It's over, you're never going to get to play with the same lineup in NUEL Varsity 2022 again. That's it. Yeah. That's your history, that's your story, over and done with. I mean, it's the same thing as in the top side of this losers bracket. Some dreams are going to be crushed today, but that's life, that's League of Legends, and that's what we're running with.
Exactly. I mean, you know, for there to be winners, there has to be someone that is losing, and well, LSE are the team that is closer to it right now. 2 more wins, of course, for them will mean that they get to progress through, play the loser of.
Yep.
I'm actually not entirely sure if the lower bracket is going to be seeded across or parallel, so, you know, we're fine. They're going to be playing the losers of one of the upper matches. But yeah, it all starts with this game, and this is the game where the pressure starts piling on, because one mistake here, and as you have said, it will be over. Now, we will be loading in. I want to see the runes and some there's anything interesting. I mean, Bong's going for the Ignite on Syndra stands out straight away.
Yeah, that's it. Bonk's really thinking, well, you know what? We had it last game. I know what this guy's like. I know he's not necessarily the best mid out there as far as being a mid laner goes compared to being a player. Pretty good player, not necessarily a good mid laner necessarily. That's why we're seeing on the Zillion this game being a little bit more of a supportive role, and Bonk's just recognizing that, well, you know what? I'm going to take the Ignite. I'm going to win the lane matchup and make sure he doesn't have a good time.
Yeah, and we'll see how that goes. In terms of runes, I think everything is basically as normal. I'm not seeing any funky choices here. And yeah, I just can't wait to get into this one. Potentially the last game for the LSE. Bristol Mandem 1 game away from putting themselves through to the second round of the losers bracket.
Here we are. Might be their last dance today, right here on the Rift. Both teams starting out on the bot side, and, well,
yeah,
still not catching each other just yet.
I'm gonna ask this stupid question. Are we in the game on stream yet? Because I don't believe I heard the production confirm that to us. Cool, okay, we are in the game. There we go. Because as you can see, those teams are very close to each other. So I just wanted to make sure this wouldn't turn into a bit of radio casting. But how on earth do you miss... How on earth do you miss each other here?
They somehow managed to go for some of the longer routes on the invade, and, well...
This is scripted. I don't believe this just happens.
We did say that there would probably be some level 1 shenanigans, because disrupting the jungle matchup could be paramount to changing the outcome, affecting the early game, and really neutering an Olaf or buffing your Graves, respectively. And we might, in fact, just see both teams just start the enemy buffs.
Oh no, it's gonna be very awkward when Remy gets into the mid lane. No, there aren't no wards. When are they gonna find out? Surely when the bot lanes run into each other. That's
So
when
Remy's
we will know. Okay.
gone that way. It's not
yeah,
necessarily...
oh wait, the bot lanes are fighting. There we go. Nibble is going to get exhausted and ignited, trying to get away. Born this way, looking for the undertows, but he didn't pick up the axe. There we go. To attack, one more axe will do it. Great sidestep, but flash forward in from Born this way and LSE dog to secure this first blood.
And that's the level 1 shenanigans we talked about. That's a level 2 Olaf going on to your level 1 Braum. That's always going to be a win from the perspective of LSE. A little bit unfortunate you got caught in the river, but neither team had the information, so I really don't know what you could have done differently other than just have the Sixth Sense up and available, knowing that maybe they're in your jungle.
Yeah, heavy trading up in the top lane as well. 3-on-1, getting that Conqueror procced at the end there. So, the first 3 levels are going, well, the first level so far is going just as we wanted it to go for LSE in the bot lane right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Caitlyn Karma gonna get the push, gonna get the zone off. Benux is gonna take a little bit of a beating for the time being. Some aggressive trading there. Kind of what you expected with the priority, and also what you expect in mid with Box pushing and Remy permanently taking a bit of a bad trade on the Zillion side of things there. And yep, winning mid, winning mid for Bristol, and winning bot for LSE, as we expected.
Yeah. And I mean, I do have to, since the camera does pan to Remy quite a lot, relatively good job on sidestepping the skill shots. I mean, gets hit. Okay, I thought I almost cursed him. There we go. Gets hit by one time and time again, but without boots, that's forgivable. So, and keeping up in CS pretty well. So, I have to say, Remy so far, yeah, falling behind, kind of what we would expect. Is born this way, getting aggressed on by Doom. That slow from the red buff doesn't feel too great. The Undertow is coming through. Oxbridge reject this in the top lane. Alright, that's a 4v2, and 3-1-1 is caught in the LSE's territory with Remy taking the kill.
That's a massive run from Oxbridge Reader, and this is only doable because of the fact that you have so much priority early on by virtue of playing a Caitlyn Karma lane. You pushed them in, you instead decided to not keep pushing them in and try and go for plating, try and deny them farm. We're gonna just crash the wave and let Oxbridge Reject roam to the rest of the map, and they end up getting the kill on it.
Yeah, but I actually love how it happened, because there was a recall coming through, LSE Dog picking up the call, so this is a conscious decision by the LSE's bot lane. They say, right, we're going to sack the priority, we're not going to perma-push, which I applaud, because if Bonks or 3-on-1 are in the bot lane, you die. And instead, that Dogs with reject app, LSE Dog is just farming. This is positive early game moves for LSE.
Yeah, and it's very different to last game. Last time we saw early game moves, but they weren't necessarily positive. They were traded back and forth, and arguably in the favour of Bristol, despite LSE initiating the plays. But Remy really going to have a hard time right now. I'm a bit worried for later on when Bonks gets a little bit more damage.
Yeah, early it was going fine because the few skill shots you got hit by didn't do that much damage. Now, after a few recalls, they're gonna start hurting. And Bonks, of course, running that Ignite, which means at level 6, the kill threat goes through the roof.
Yeah, and then we can see the setup for the Drake, as we mentioned, in champs like going for these dragons as the Olaf, letting your bot lane use the priority, securing this, making sure that pretty much roam attempts are not possible, and that's absolutely fine right here. You get the Drake, but maybe Bristol wants to contest.
Definitely do want to, however now Bonks will be collapsing down looking at the mini-map. Not level 6 yet, also low on mana, will have to burn the flash, does get rooted by the tether, taking a lot of damage. The Ignite was down, but now it's going to be Oxbridge reject. Rooted up in place, Nibble has got the bomb, has got the healing, but it's not enough. Remy picks up the kill, born this way in the front line, still alive, still Benux's dashes through. It is a trade of junglers, but Benux's picks up the kill, Bonks is dead, everyone is dying. LSE Dog will drop the Ignite down, but Benux's hits the S rank, and he's looking to finish off this fight. 4-4-3 for Bristol, man them, and they equalize the gold.
Oh boy, that was a scrappy fight to say the least. Bristol really wanted to get to turnaround after the Drake happened, and Benuxus manages to pick up all the kills. It was traded back a little bit, but the Samira, we absolutely happy to get that early gold in her back pocket, because that really opens up the lane in the bot side. It means that now you have so much more damage than the Caitlyn on the all-in that you might be able to all-in them if Maokai gets a good angle on it, which means that as LSE Dog and Oxbridge Reject, you have to be a lot more respectful of them.
Yeah, you do indeed, and well, that kind of stops the positive momentum that LSE had going. Bit of a bummer. And Benux is having those steel caps, and the Vamp Scepter means that LSE Dog's poke isn't gonna matter too much.
Yeah, you're allowed to sort of just sustain through the lane at this point, and you can see that Benuxus and Nibble are actually getting a lot of pressure here because they just currently do more damage, as we just mentioned. And this is a bit of a shift in the Caitlyn lane. Now you don't get quite as much priority, you can still get it a lot of the time, but
Bonks was looking maybe to continue the aggression, but instead that is going to be Remy disengaging.
And there it is. I almost feel like this is just exactly how it's going to go. The problem is with Remy using these sorts of chrono shifts defensively on himself is that you might end up in situations where you don't have the cooldown. Yes, it's a short cooldown. Or in other situations where Bonks your teammates on his side. And then you don't get to live and you don't get the trade. You instead lose yourself. That you give the money over to Bristol, and that's not what you want to do.
Yeah, Nibble aggressing down onto LSE. Dog, that's the flash away, but Agdoom still takes the kill. Ragnarok down in the bot lane, and this way he can't find anything. We are seeing the same pattern as last game. LSE just don't find anything in return.
There is great gang from Agdoom showing that, well, you know, you tried to get priority this one time, but we have better in the bot side, and there's a Graves here. Olaf doesn't make it to the play early enough, and then you end up losing out on it. So really good proactivity from Graves, and nice recognition from Bristol as a team on the whole.
Yeah, I mean, is it time to be worried for LSE? Because I'm looking at this game and 2-1. Bonks starting to hurt a lot in the mid lane, and Benux is 2-0-2.
That is the question right now. Born this way. Starting up the Rift Herald and just making sure to secure this, try and get some gold plating for himself and one other carry on the team. I doubt that Bristol will immediately try to contest this one. It is just a Rift Herald. Yes, it's nice to have, but it's not trying to lose over given that you don't have the setup nor the numbers available to be able to do so.
Yeah, and rotating LSE Dog and Oxbridge reject, but 0 plates have been taken yet. With the Caitlyn Karma lane at 9 minutes, I am pretty sure we can count that as a bit of a failure.
Yeah. The general goal with most Caitlyn pairings in bot lane is to say, well, we get push, we make sure that we can have jungle support us in one way or another down there, get plating, and that's how we get our lead. We don't necessarily get leads by getting the kills down there, but by the plating. Unfortunately, because the Samira's got a lot more damage now, and the fact that you've sort of just sacrificed your priority in some cases to be able to play for other areas of the map, this means that your Caitlyn is going to be in that mid-game power trough for so much longer than she might normally be in.
Yeah, and we've got a low state. This is not Bristol Manham getting more than 1 kill per minute. This game feels much different. Now, however, a play will be made towards the mid lane. You have to imagine Born this way, finding out Bonks, pops the Ragnarok. Here comes Stacy in the hole. That is enough damage. LSE Dog picks up the kill. Teleport is forced from 3-on-1. Born this way on the disengage through the jungle. He's gonna be fine.
It's these greedy plays and these aggressive plays from Born This Way that he's known for, and exactly what he's showing here on an Olaf, a champion that really wants the money, wants to be able to do these things, and Bonks really can't respond to Ragnarok because he's immune to CC. Your one defensive tool is a Syndra, that scatter the weak button, you can't press it, and then there's a ace in the hole coming at you as well. Yeah, no stopping that.
Not at all. The dragon now will be picked up. I just looked at those bombs. Yep. Okay, Ocean Soul. Is it big? For which teams and why?
Alright, so as an Olaf, you generally appreciate more healing. It's extra sustain. The thing is, neither team are... I mean, honestly, if you're Bristol, you probably appreciate it a little bit more because there can be some poke coming through between Zillion, Karma, and Caitlyn.
Bonks is just gonna be taken down by Born This Way, who has got the Chrono Shift on top of himself. The Herald is taking down plates, and... okay, LSE getting a kill, getting some plates, and getting priority in mid lane.
Yeah, LSE living and dying by the jungler, clearly. When the jungler's doing well, you have situations like this. When the jungler's overforcing, you have situations like last game where Bristol ends up winning on the plays that you ended up making. And it's a very different face of LSE that we're seeing right now. Given that Born This Way is currently 3-1-4 on the Olaf, yes, you're a bit down in farm, but the proactivity is there, and you still have the gold from the Herald.
Right, the gold lead is sitting shy of 1,000, but they've got that gold drinker picked up by Born This Way. We already saw how... okay, you know what, I will hold on. Nick almost winning that one. Call of Portugal does unfortunately miss 3-on-1. Will hijack that one out. You have to believe Kingslayer will be also coming up with cooldown at some point. There is the burst of healing and the... chains dropping down onto Nick, who is out of mana, and it is a disengaged. Nature's Grasp will be coming down into the jungle, finds the wood onto Nabel, and sorry, no, Oxbridge rejecting. He is going to be outside, but so is LC Dog, and Bonks takes him down. That's 2 kills picked up by Mandem.
And
Born This
Venuxus
Way.
maybe another one.
Yeah, Born This Way is definitely not out just yet. No access to Ragnarok either, and stuck under this tower. Venuxus cashes in on the shutdown. Well, the goal lead is gone just like that.
And that is the worst person as well, perhaps, for that shutdowns have gone to. You just gave it to the Samira, who already got 2 kills early on. That's not what you want. You also don't want the Samira getting your most valuable shutdown. This Samira now has exponentially more gold than she otherwise would have, and now becomes a much bigger threat in teamfights, given what the Samira can do. Samira's got 5.1k versus the 4.5. You don't normally see that sort of lead with a Samira.
Oh my god, that's all of damage, but no! Bonks will take down Remy, the minions. Finishing off the job, 1-for-1 in the mid lane. But I do agree.
Yeah, the Chrono Shift's available though. It's a little bit of a...
Okay, yeah, a bit of a... Did not notice that one. A moment indeed. Cue the Minecraft villager sound.
Yeah, I mean, very much showing that, yeah, no, I don't play this role. I'm not a mid laner. I'm not used to doing this. At least you get the trade. That's all I can say about that one. But Goldie very even at the moment, and I would like to see. It's hard to say because right now it almost feels as if you take a straight on team fight without LSE being to shut Benuxus down, you're in a bit of a sticky situation. But if you can get a pick beforehand, maybe then you're slightly better off. Right now, you probably want to continue getting Born This Way gold, funneling him in one way or another, and then going with that. But it's getting increasingly hard to be able to make plays because Bristol are actually getting money.
Yeah, they are getting money, they are getting items as well, and I mean, to be honest, okay, both sides are getting items. That's not really the argument in favor of them, but Agdoom is starting to feel strong, so is Benuxus, and LSE just can't find anything to stick, as we just saw Ragnarok being burned in the bot lane for a flash away from Nibble. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Nibble does manage to get away with it. I mean, good recognition saying, well, they're going to go all in for this player, might as well burn this now, make sure I get out, and they don't get anything out of it, because that's 300 gold they otherwise would have in their pocket. So, yep, I consider that worth. Now Born This Way can't make another play with the Ragnarok somewhere else on the map for the time being, so you take those ones, but for the most part, scaling towards Drakes right now, scaling for other objectives, playing for those, because taking too many random fights here and there might end up leading you to a bit of a similar situation as we had last game, where LSE took random fights, took aggressive fights, and then ended up giving gold away.
Yeah, well, this dragon is going to be spawning in 20 seconds. That is going to be a big fight, I would anticipate, as we see Nick going down to the rest of the team, having the exhaust as well. So yeah, this man's ready for a brawl.
Yeah, certainly is indeed. We're just trying to wait for the setup. 5 seconds on this one. Both teams resting for vision control, but Born This Way currently being able to step in. I think LSE might have the setup. It's on Bristol to see whether they want to contest.
Bonks is separated from the rest of his team. That is a dual-edged sword. On the one side, you've got the flank. On the other side, if LSE collapse on you, you have no help. Mandem have reclaimed control over this dragon. Bonk still standing on this side. LSE don't have any vision in that bush. There we go. That's the Ragnarok. That's the engage. That's the goal button. But the Call of the Fortune has been negated by the Samira. And now Born This Way is just trying to disengage. Bonk's on the side, picking off targets. Unleashed power onto Oxbridge Reject. The cross shift was popped up onto Born This Way. But LSE though can't get into the fight. Inferno Trigger has been pulled. And that is the death sentence for LSE. It feels like the bomb onto Benuxus will be able to find a shutdown. Remy was looking for 3-on-1 as well. Nibble going in with the twisted advance, but it is just over with Mandem winning this fight. Okay, you know what? Never mind. Remy actually doing a lot of work here with those bombs.
I mean, you have to. I mean, yeah, there it is. Gets donated over to Bonks in the end. And that there was a great example of what happens when you don't immediately get the pick onto Benuxus, or Bonks for that matter, in a fight. They got to deal their damage in this really ahead. Samira managed to Inferno Trigger down, gun down, and fight the whole of LSE, especially due to the fact that that awful call of the Forge God managed to not go off, because if that had gone off, you got the CC onto Benuxus, then that's a very different fight for LSE.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot about that interaction, I'm gonna be honest. I just saw Benuxus deny call for just like, yeah, of course, that is such a massive cooldown. that LSE will need to be tracking for this fight. I don't think they can engage if this is up.
Yeah, it's insanely difficult too. It can sometimes negate some of the important damage coming in from LSE Dog if that's necessary, but just denying the main CC tool you have. The only other thing you can deny are the time bombs, but if Benuxus recognizes that maybe a time bomb would cause some trouble to him, then he can still use that Blade Wall to stop that from happening. This is a 30-second cooldown, roughly, baseline that you need to be careful of, and you can hold on to it most of the time as a Samira, especially if you're in the backline.
Alright, the Herald, we have the teleport being channeled in, another Ragnarok going into the pit, but the Herald has been picked up by Agdoom already. Call it the Force God finding its way. Hijacked as well. Benux is jumping onto LSE Dog, who's trying to disengage on this getting caught out by the Nature's Grasp. Will be taken down. For this way, reviving with the Chronoships, but that is Nick falling. And the third member of LSE born this way with the Gorger buying some time. Now Bonks flashes in, looking for Remy. The Everfrost will find the root, but it doesn't matter because Bonks is on a killing spree, and Ogs with Reject falls down with a double kill for Bonks, and ace for Mandem for nothing. They drop the Herald. They are looking to eliminate LSE right here, right now.
And it all just falls apart after that team fight. Born This Way goes in, goes for the play, thinks with his confidence as the better jungler that I can do that, but Actoon is saying, no you, I'm the better jungler in this matchup, manages to make the play. They couldn't get any CC onto Benuxus, and that's all she wrote.
It feels like that. The goal lead is not as insurmountable, but this is looking very much like the game one with mythics completed across the board, and LSE Dog can't contest. Born This Way, we've just seen what happened in the team fight. The hope really feels waning if you're an LSE fan.
That's it right now. You must be thinking about the mental at this point in the game, facing elimination right now. You're the second seed in the regular season, and here you are in the first round of the losers bracket, and one loss away from ending your split, your final dance in the 2022 season.
Yeah, and I mean, you already mentioned possibly the final game for the squad as a whole, with many of them not being able to play next split, so it would be tough to end on a loss here, but unfortunately all signs seem to be pointing this way for now. We'll see if they can clutch something from the jaws of defeat, as Nick is going to have to take a gauntlet, and I really don't think he's going to be making it out. Flashes away from the Inferno trigger, but Benuxus will be cashing in on his 6th kill this game.
There it is, Benuxus, absolutely massive. Last game, Bonks was the highlight, certainly performed well, but the Samira got the gold early on and has definitely used it a lot, owing to some of the misplays and blunders from some of LSE's forces. And in the end, you're going back to this topic of forces. I've mentioned it so much this game, but when you have so many coming through this jungler that is kind of the center of your team, it comes with the narrative, it comes with the play style, and right now as a team, you're going to have to be relying on it yet again, because that's the only way you're getting back into it.
Alright, well, the Dragon will be up in 1 minute. Baron is technically up. Samira, not necessarily the best Baron taker, so that's why we don't see Mandem just rush that completely. But Shadow Flame, Lord Dominic's Regard, Black Cleaver, second items being completed on the major carries of Bristol Mandem. It's looking tough. It's gonna take a miracle fight.
Those are some fairly sizable item power spikes right now. Almost the entire squad rolling up in 2 items, including the Mythic. And on the other side, well, not even a single member has their second item complete.
Here comes God the Forge. God forces the flash from Agdoom. Ragnarok coming down, but there's nothing to be found here. Teleport is being channeled, but Remy immediately half health. Ace in the hole going down onto Bonks, and this was desperation from LSE, and it is clean execution from Bristol Mandem as they are routing their opposition. Not even that, they don't let them engage. They will chase them down. They will kill every single last one of them, as double kill will be picked up by Benuxus. That is going to be the ace at 22 minutes in the game. The Baron picked up. Bristol Mandem, they are ready to go through to the second round.
absolutely saying, no, we'll have none of that. We are not getting knocked out round one of losers. That is too much of a disgrace for our team. We made it through at this point. We want to be able to match our other team in UEM. We're going to try and win the playoffs and get into that last chance qualifier.
I mean, hey, it's a hell of a road, but as long as you're in playoffs, there is a chance, and Bristol Mandem are looking clean this series. I think it's important to say we have a juggernaut of a loser's bracket, and they are making this look clinical.
That is it. Certainly not what you expected from the second and third seeds of the tournament.
And Bristol is the third seed.
Yep. The lower seed. Previously, when these teams met, LSE got the better of them. It's a world we live in, but here we are.
Alright, let's go. Another desperate engage, but that's all that LSE have. That's all they can do, and this is backfiring yet again. It feels like Teleport was challenged by 3-on-1. Benux is in the middle of the fight. Is taken low. Is almost taken down, but that is not enough. He's going to drop the ultimate. He's going to pick up the double kill. Bristol Mandem are just wiping the floor. The GG coming in the chat from LSE. They know it's over.
There is Baron buff down the mid lane. They're going to come hurtling towards your Nexus. And that's going to be it for your history in this split. Your history as a roster. It's a sad day, but it's absolutely not that for Bristol. They stay alive in the bracket. Their playoff dreams, winning the split, trying to make it to UEM. That's all still in the bag for them. And maybe matching their brothers in the Bristol Warriors in time to come.
First step has been taken from Bristol Mandem. It was a clean series, quick 2-0. 2 games that we can confidently class as a stomp. And yeah, I think so. Looking forward, I mean, okay, no, let's start with that. Commiseration to LSE, of course, feels tough. Going 0-3 on the day, ending the run in the Varsity, coming in second from regular season. But that's unfortunately how it is.
Yeah, it's the curse of best of one. Sometimes you come into the day with one best of one. You get cheese at level 1, potentially. We don't know exactly what went down, but you lost somebody at level 1. You got first blooded. You come into a best of 3. You get dominated the first game, and then at that point, the mental is strained, and it's on you to be able to keep pushing through.
Yeah, and unfortunately they were in the bud with that. I do want to focus on Bristol Mandem, right? Because that is the team that we're going to be seeing more in the tournament, probably. I don't know about the exact times of the matches. There is a chance they lose next round, but they have gone through, and I want to expand on what I said in game, that we have 4 of the strongest teams from regular season in the losers bracket. And Bristol Mandem are looking clean. They have beaten LSE like convincingly. There's nothing really I can put to them outside of try and die less, be more clean, but those are general criticisms that work for any game.
And we talked about in regular season how Bristol Mandem might be this dark horse in the playoffs run. Right now, they're beating the second seed in very dominating fashion. Yes, they lost the first match of the day, but it's a best of 1. This stuff happens. The only question is now is that, well, we don't know. I'm not sure if we have the results on the other best of 3, but Grey Warwick and Exeter, 2 other massive teams in this tournament, are on the other side of that lower bracket, and they have to meet them. So we'll see the culmination of this in the weeks to come, but right now, looking like a contender.
Yeah, they are indeed. I mean, I think Bristol Mandem... Yeah, I think Bristol Mandem are going to be facing the losers of the winners brackets. But there are a lot of matches, of course. We don't have the results for all them, so we won't be able to, give you that. But all I'm going to say is that you guys will have to follow us, because that is unfortunately all we have for tonight. So, Takwa, anything that you want to say before we wrap it up?
Short and sweet, a little best of 3 there. Congratulations to Bristol's and commiserations to LSE.
All right, but with that, we will go out for the night. So make sure you follow the channel to stay tuned for more results for the Varsity Playoffs, and we will see you next Wednesday. Oh yeah, so a shout out to the sponsors as well, Twitch, Student, and Intel. It wouldn't be possible without them. Thank you to the producer for reminding us, and from me, Takua, and Skolser on the production. That's gonna be it. So have a good night.